favorite coffee. Hello everyone, I would like to introduce you to my favorite coffee. This is the Valley Espresso by Blue Bottle Coffee. Now, at the beginning of this semester, when we were tasked with choosing our favorite coffee, I did not really drink coffee, and so this led me to simply choose the first aesthetically pleasing brand that Instagram pushed onto my algorithm so kindly, and that brand was Blue Bottle Coffee. And how could I resist? Just look at that marketing, so cute. They do an incredible job with their Instagram and really curate this chill, classic yet modern, sophisticated coffee look that visually makes it seem like I'm going to buy some good coffee from these people. I ordered an espresso blend from them because my roommate and I have a mini espresso machine, and I actually really enjoy this blend. On the website, it's said to have notes of orange peel and brown sugar, and I would agree with that. And Blue Bottle also says that this is a really great espresso to pair with milk, and that is very appealing to me because I prefer a latte, specifically an iced latte. Usually I take it with oat milk and agave and ice. But should I feel bad for liking this coffee? I mean, is Blue Bottle's Valley Espresso ethically sourced and responsibly maintained? To determine this, I'll be working with the ethical framework of consequentialism, looking at the entirety of Blue Bottle's actions to produce this coffee and the consequences of those actions. Before I make that decision though, let's take a look at the history of Blue Bottle Coffee. Blue Bottle Coffee was officially founded in the early 2000s as a singular storefront that delivered freshly roasted beans to customers locally. And the early 2000s was a pretty interesting time for food and drink standards in the United States. Through the late 90s, leading up into the turn of the century, food quality regulations were at an all-time low. This extreme low point gave rise to an organic revolution of kombucha hippies and almond moms. And this revolution is spearheaded by a book titled The Omnivore's Dilemma by Michael Pollan. And basically, this book highlights the ecological and health risks of the American food production industry of the time. And it spurred a lot of American consumers to consume more intentionally through local shopping and organic lifestyle choices. Now, at the same time, Starbucks was on a huge rise in popularity, surpassing 10,000 storefronts in 2007. So this combination of organic uprising and express coffee was pretty much a perfect storm for a company like Blue Bottle to take off with their high quality, small batch roasting that could be delivered to your doorstep conveniently. During COVID, the company focused a lot on their internet presence and reaching people within their homes. So they started a subscription coffee service that picked up a lot of traction at that time. And they put a lot more visual and marketable work into their socials on Instagram and especially on their website. They have highly produced and developed videos, product photos, and articles on their website. They're running a huge marketing campaign based around green and ethical marketing while utilizing a defined and trendy style. They are very in with the times of social media, connecting with the young adult audience and their values, and they seem to have found a lot of success in these marketing strategies. Now that we've discussed some of Blue Bottle's historical context, I think it's time that we take a look at the actual workings of its production chain. So I'm going to send you guys over to the research department to get more details on that. Hello again. The research department is in fact just me sitting at my computer. I'd like to take a closer look at Blue Bottle's website and see exactly what we can find. Upon first look over, Blue Bottle has several single origin blends that explicitly list the producer's name and processing method. However, nothing is really said on the Valley Espresso page. It's kind of void of details, which is odd because this is one of its best-selling products on the website. Since there's no details, I'm going to consult Google. What farms does Blue Bottle Coffee use for their beans? The people of Reddit have just informed me that Blue Bottle was bought by Nestle in 2017. That's interesting that their website never said that. All right, this is a disappointing discovery. Nestle has had several ethical dilemmas within their company and production chain specifically. In 2016, just 1 year before Nestle bought Blue Bottle, the company had admitted to slave labor risks on their coffee plantations. And this just doesn't align with Blue Bottle's messaging. And so I'm going to go to the source. So I emailed Blue Bottle using the Contact Us tab on their website with the following questions. Where is your Hayes Valley Espresso sourced from? And does the company utilize any Nestle-owned farms? So Nate, the guest experience specialist, responded within 2 days. He says, "We primarily work with importers and often directly with producers across the world. None of our coffee is sourced from Nestle-owned farms at this time. And the components for Hayes Valley rotate throughout the year according to seasonal availability. And it is currently a blend of coffees from Colombia and Guatemala. And I'm afraid I don't have any additional sourcing information to provide." That wording seems like a legal strategy. Looking through their single origin suppliers, there aren't any in Guatemala or Colombia, so I can't really connect those dots. And even though Nate told me that Blue Bottle does not utilize Nestle's farms, Nestle does own significant farmland in Colombia and Guatemala. We're told that Blue Bottle doesn't use these farms, but they also can't provide us with any information on the farmers and pickers at these locations. There's an obvious, deliberate lack of transparency here that, again, doesn't align with Blue Bottle's messaging, especially when there's quotes like, "Our coffee is highly traceable, often sourced from a select group of producers with whom we've built relationships averaging 8 years or more." All over their website. Those quotes are all over their website. Now, for the rest of the production chain of the Hayes Valley Espresso, the company could not provide me with any processing information, but all of the roasting is done within the US. They roast their beans to order in small batches to ensure freshness and avoid excess waste. And they also use these machines called loring machines that use 80% less gas than a traditional Probat machine. Then they ship the roasts from those facilities to their customers and their storefronts. If I were to define Blue Bottle Coffee within the production stages, I would call it primarily a roaster. Yes, they have storefronts, but they seem to profit off of their online sales the most, and most of the allure of the company has to do with their local US roasting. They promise quality roast, and the pricing reflects that. Hayes Valley Espresso costs $13 for a 6-ounce bag, not including shipping. Thank you, research department. Now that we've gone through all of those ups and downs of the production process of the Hayes Valley Espresso, we're going to discuss some of the diversity efforts within Blue Bottle's company. If we look at their website blog, disclaimer, this blog has not been updated since 2023, and most of the posts that I'm referencing are from 2017 or 2018. But Blue Bottle has numerous articles about diversity on several levels of production. They write about women coffee producers in El Salvador, Burundi, and Myanmar. And they participated in a premium payment program with the International Women's Coffee Alliance in Burundi specifically, helping support women in the coffee industry by buying their products. They also have local partnerships that they take part in some of their storefronts. In Chicago, they partner with the Hyde Park Arts Center to promote diverse artists that contribute to the gallery there. Now, it's time for the main event. Is this coffee ethical? To evaluate this coffee, I will be using the ethical theory called consequentialism. There are generally two practices of the consequentialist theory. The first focuses on direct consequences. This is referred to as act consequentialism. Act consequentialism states that an action is morally good if the results of said actions are of higher value than the negative consequences. The second practice of consequentialism, called rule consequentialism, focuses on indirect consequences. Rule consequentialism states that an action is morally good only if the value of accepting the set of rules that permit said action is greater than the negative consequences of accepting that set of rules. The primary ethical certification that Blue Bottle Coffee has achieved is called the In Veritas Responsibly Sourced Mark. This is a small nonprofit organization that ensures sustainability efforts within coffee companies. It sets specified social, environmental, and economic standards. First, I'd like to evaluate the standards they have reached for their working conditions. In Veritas states that no child labor and no forced labor can occur at any point within production. Then it states that all workers must be paid at least the local minimum wage or industry standard wage, whichever is higher. Now, this standard isn't necessarily impressive because it simply is functioning within the coffee production industry, which is already an industry that underpays its producers. It's not guaranteeing a livable wage, just a standardized wage. Using direct consequentialism, I would classify this standard as unethical because of how it will directly affect the communities long term. If the coffee industry maintains its standards of pay for the farmers, those people cannot afford to better their current quality of life, which is performing hard labor for the majority of the day without any pause because they cannot financially afford it. In my mind, the negative result outweighs the positive results of attaining coffee in the US. As for their environmental standards, this is where Blue Bottle is impressive. And Veritas standards state that there can be no deforestation, no use of banned pesticides, biodiversity and soil protection must be occurring, and preservation of water and energy must also be occurring. They also implement a lot of sustainable practices with their customers. They use the loring machines, they make compostable coffee filters for purchase, and they use fiber straws and sugarcane cups at their storefronts. These are tangible actions that have positive outcomes for our environment. And using rule consequentialism, these standards create a set of rules that would be hugely beneficial for consumers and companies alike to follow. The main ethical issue that I have with Blue Bottle is about their transparency. In my research, I have had to dig through several empty phrases of them claiming to be highly traceable and carbon neutral, but they don't provide the details. The Valley Espresso is one of their best sellers, yet product information is not available. Additionally, there is no reference to their owner, Nestle, on their website. Blue Bottle commits greenwashing with these actions, which has numerous negative consequences on consumers and the market. We as consumers lose our choice to take sustainable actions if the distributors cover up the unethical aspects of their company. Now, given the information that they do provide, especially that In Veritas certification, I would give them an overall rating of ethical. The set of rules that they function on for environmental sustainability will leave a positive impact. Details on the treatment of the producers do not seem to allude to outright cruelty, but the wages are not necessarily ethical in the long run. However, they do slightly make up for this with their efforts to make those producers visible with the articles that they have written about some of the farms that they partner with. With all that being said, I would not buy this coffee again. Their lack of transparency disappoints me as a consumer, and it's not an ethical practice when running a so-called sustainable company.